I was born and raised in Waco, Texas, on a working cattle farm on the banks of the Brazos River. I mention that because I think it's important that you know who I am, where I'm from, and what form my values. I graduated from the same high school where my mom was a counselor, where my dad had graduated from. I went to the University of Texas and got a bachelor's degree in business. Baylor got a master's degree in business. From there, I went into the Central Intelligence Agency for 10 years. I was a case officer. Case officers recruit and handle human sources of intelligence abroad. I did that for 10 years, rose through the ranks to become deputy chief of the third largest station in Africa, along the way picking up some decorations for work in counterterrorism, a meritorious unit citation for work in the Gulf War, a presidential unit citation for work in counterterrorism, and the Human Intelligence Collector of the Year award for the capture of the terrorist known as Carlos the Jackal. I worked counterterrorism most of my career. One of the first agents that was handed to me to work was a reporting source on Hezbollah. I have been in a room and put my hands on men who work for Osama bin Laden. I have seen government succeed in the case of the Carlos the Jackal operation, and I've seen it fail. One Al-Qaeda member in particular, we were not allowed to recruit for legal reasons, and today he's serving a life sentence for involvement in a terrorist act. So I understand what it's going to take to win the war on terror. I'm the only man in the race that's actually fought on it at a time before we called it that. But I know that it's going to take soldiers doing what warriors do, not what policemen do. And I know it's going to take more intelligence officers being freed of the restrictions that we have from this administration, trying to turn it into a law enforcement problem. It is not a law enforcement problem. It is a national security problem that I have worked directly on the ground where the rubber meets the road. And I think I have much to offer to our district and to our country to make our oversight and our policy better. I've also been a small businessman here in the district for the last 15 years. Had a retail store for 10 years, sold it, kept the building as a piece of investment property, and for the last several years I've built 17 homes and have several pieces of property under development. I mention that because as a small businessman, I understand the importance of jobs. And Dave and I have a little bit of a difference of opinion on the importance of jobs. The debt is important, but stopping the spending is only part of the problem. You have to pay the debt back. The way you pay the debt back is you create jobs, you grow the tax base. We have an administration that's talking about raising the tax rate instead of lowering the unemployment rate. Every time people come back to work, there's more and more payroll exposed to the tax base. Every time you have companies making a profit, there's more things exposed to the tax base. We have to do that before we talk about doing other things. And if we're going to get our economy going, we have to talk about real tax cuts and real regulatory reform, and with a special emphasis on that. Regulatory reform is one of the unsung heroes of the Reagan Revolution. It costs the taxpayers nothing, and it lowers the cost of doing business. I talked to a medical equipment business over in Burleson, and I could go on for about an hour of how it is a microcosm of the problems in our economy as well as in our healthcare industry. But suffice to say, they told me, Chuck, if we don't get some relief from regulation, we're going to be out of business in June. And we can't afford that when we have an economy that's in crisis. Businessmen are afraid when they look at healthcare reform and cap and trade and card check, at all this radical legislation that fundamentally changes the relationship not only between the people and the government, but the environment that businesses have to make a profit in. No businessman can understand right now what his cost is going to be 12 to 24 months out in the future. I've sat there and had to write payroll and property taxes and income taxes when the doorbell and the phone weren't ringing. It's a scary time, and right now our businessmen and women are sitting there going to work every day trying to figure out how they're going to survive. And as long as that mentality exists, we're not going to create jobs. Now, we have some really fine men running in this primary, men with experience in business and men with experience in national security. But I'm the only candidate with both. And on both counts, my experience is more pertinent and more practical to the problems at hand than anyone else in the primary. As I alluded to earlier, I have walked dusty foreign streets alone at night, armed, in disguise, fighting what we now call the war on terror. And I have been here on Main Street creating the very kind of jobs that you, your friends, and your family go to work to every day. Small business creates 70% of the jobs in this country. If we don't solve the problem of small business on Main Street, we're not going to go anywhere else and solve any other problems. So, I come from the largest county in the district, the one with the most number of Republicans crossing over to vote for Chet Edwards, and winning back those votes is the only practical mathematical path to victory. Oh, sorry. I didn't do that.
No, go ahead, Chuck, go ahead.
I believe that there are many aspects of being a congressman that we talk about being a conservative, and that's important. We also have to be a congressman. Things like sewer pipe, water pipe, asphalt, lakes, roads, they matter. They matter to ask your county judge and your county commissioners. They matter. And I've done those things. We need a congressman with experience in that and understands the job of economic development of this district. From Chamber of Commerce to checking the cows, right through counterterrorism. No other candidate in this race has the kind of experience that I have to be your congressman, and no one else is better positioned to beat Chet Edwards in the fall. I look forward to earning your vote tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. I sure appreciate the standing room only crowd to see me. Thank you very much. I don't take it personally. No, really, we have got a real chore on our hands tonight. I don't know about you, but there's a lot of people in this country that are really afraid. For the first time in their lives, they're truly afraid of what's happening and what's happening in Washington because of the policies that the current administration and the liberal Democrats are wanting to take us in. We are in a time that if we don't decide which way we want to go, we're going to head down the road that we're already heading that path. I don't believe in socialism. I spent time in the Soviet Union. Socialism does not work. It's a horrendous form of government, and to try and bring it here to America is just plain wrong. A lot of people want to know, what can they do about it? Well, you in this room, you can fight the battle that others in the country cannot fight. We can start right here in District 17 by replacing what we've got, which is an ally of Obama and Pelosi, and putting in an enemy of Obama and Pelosi. And that's where I come in. I would like to finish the job that we started last year. I'm a small business owner from Waco, been in business for 25 years. I know about creating jobs, and I know about hard economic times. And I can tell you right now, times are difficult for a lot of folks in business. I've also been in the media. I've also been involved in politics for a lot of years here. I've been fighting the Chet Edwards agenda for 20 years in this district in one form or fashion. We've got to get somebody that represents our values and not the values of Nancy Pelosi. Believe it or not, Nancy Pelosi has more representation in this room than any of you combined. And that's just wrong, and that's got to be stopped. The last year we've had a lot of things happening in this country that a lot of people want to see changed. We're going to have to repeal and restore a lot of things that this administration has been passing. Not necessarily with the help of Chet Edwards. He waits till the very last second to decide that he's got to save his job by opposing cap and trade and opposing the health care bill. But we've got other things that we've got to do. For instance, did you ever think you'd see the day when the President of the United States would decide that he wanted to see the President of General Motors fired? I never thought I'd see America where that would be happening. What you've got to do is make a decision in this primary. This is going to be your key choice. We've got to find out and choose the one person that can beat Chet Edwards and change this district from a Democrat, Nancy Pelosi supporting district to one that will represent our values and represent our way of thinking in Washington. I didn't get into this race 2 years ago because I was looking for a new job, a new career, or an adventure. I got in this race because we've got to have somebody that was willing to stand up. Nobody was willing to go against Chet Edwards last time around because he was deemed unapproachable. It was not winnable. So everybody had to, everybody backed off. But the bottom line for me as a conservative, someone who loves his country and doesn't love where it's going, I had to take the stand and take the fight that no one else was willing to take. That's what we need in Washington. Not only do we have to have somebody that's going to fight for our values in this district, we also have to have somebody that's going to fight the Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi agenda. And let me tell you something. I was willing to fight with the help of grassroots volunteers and your support. We made it a 4.5-point margin, even though we were outspent by $2 million. I was willing to fight when the odds were against us. I'm willing to fight when we've got seemingly the wind at our backs this time because we've got Chet Edwards on the ropes. And with the right candidate coming out of this primary, we will beat Chet Edwards this year. And I say to you, with your help and support, I'm the one candidate that's been vetted. You know who I am and what I stand for. So please, give me a chance to finish the job we started, and with your help, we'll get new representation.